When I felt like giving up, a simple act of kindness transformed my world. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air felt heavy. My chest tightened, a lump lodged like a boulder in my throat. I stood at the edge of the subway platform, surrounded by faces void of emotion, each lost in their own grief. I thought about the bills piling up, the hushed whispers of disappointment from friends, and the crushing pressure of expectations. I could feel the weight of the world pressing down on my shoulders, as if gravity itself had increased just for me. It was cold that day. The wind sliced through my clothes, chilling my skin. I could almost hear the sad soundtrack of my life playing in the distance, a symphony of despair. I was ready to give in. To let go. The thought of stepping off the ledge flitted through my mind, a quick escape from the torment of indecision. But just as I steeled myself, something surprising happened. A girl, no older than 10, tugged on my sleeve, her eyes were wide and sparkling like the clearest ocean. "Mister, are you sad?" she asked, her small voice cutting through the noise around us like a beacon. In that moment, I could see the world through her lens, vivid, innocent, untainted. I nodded, tears pricking at the corners of my eyes. "Can I give you this?" She held out a crumpled drawing, its edges ragged but alive with color. A sun beamed brightly amidst stick figures that danced joyfully. "It's magic. It makes people happy." The sincerity on her tiny face felt like a warm embrace in a cold world. I took the drawing, my hand trembling, not entirely sure how to respond. How can a child's wish change anything? Suddenly, the rumble of the train broke our moment. It screeched to a halt, vibrating the platform, threatening to sweep me away alongside my fears. I opened my mouth to say something to thank her, maybe, but the words caught in my throat. I looked down to find her gone, just another shadow lost among the restless crowd. I glanced at the drawing again, the sun glowing on the paper, and I felt a flicker of something hope. Maybe it was foolish. But there was a question lingering in the air, an electrifying uncertainty that buzzed in my ears. What if this was the moment I had been waiting for? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The days that followed drifted by in a haze. I pinned the drawing to the wall beside my bed, a vivid sun eclipsed by the shadows of my doubts. Each morning, when I rolled out of bed, its cheeriness beckoned at me, coaxing me towards possibility. But mornings turned into afternoons, and afternoons faded into lonely evenings, the drawing a constant reminder of a fleeting moment of connection that felt too delicate to grasp. The bills continued to pile up, and reminders from my landlord lurked ominously in the mailbox. Every time I walked past that box, my gut twisted with anxiety, a reminder of realities I couldn't escape. Yet through the unrelenting pressure, I clung to the thread of hope that child had given me, how she saw sadness and reached out in a small, innocent way. One rainy evening, I decided to go for a walk, needing the embrace of the world outside, even if drenched in grayness. As I wandered aimlessly, my thoughts spiraled, a whirlpool of dread over my circumstances. I pushed my hands deeper into my pockets, the cold starting to seep into my bones. Just then, in a small corner cafe, I spotted a soft glow emanating from an open window. Curiosity pulled me inside. The warmth enveloped me as I stepped over the threshold, and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air. A low chatter blended with jazz music, creating a cozy atmosphere. I eyed the chalkboard menu, the prices so high they were laughable, but my feet carried me to the counter. "Just a hot chocolate, please," I said, the spirit willing even if my wallet wasn't. As I waited, a resemblance of comfort washed over me. Perhaps I could linger here for a moment, escape into someone else's stories woven from laughter and warmth. Then, from the corner of my eye, I noticed a young couple at a table, their fingers interlaced over a shared slice of cake. They were immersed in each other, laughter bubbling like the froth atop my drink. I caught myself grinning before I could stop. For a brief moment, I was transported. I remembered how it felt to share joy like that, a stark contrast to the burdens I felt on my shoulders. A sudden rush of yearning gripped me, that need for connection rising unbidden. I glanced away quickly, heat creeping up my cheeks as I realized I had been staring. "Here you go." The barista's voice broke my reverie, and I accepted the cup, warmth seeping into my hands. I took a sip, savoring the sweetness, suddenly desperate to keep this moment alive. As I turned to find a seat, planning to hide in the shadows of the cafe's cozy nook, an elderly gentleman sitting alone at a nearby table beckoned me over with a friendly wave. "Why don't you join me? It looks like you could use the company," he said, his voice gentle yet firm. The unexpected offer caught me off guard. Unsure, I hesitated for a heartbeat, glancing around. But there was something comforting about his presence, a twinkle of kindness in his eyes that mirrored that of the little girl's. "Aisha." "Okay," I stammered, and slipped into the chair opposite him. The man introduced himself as Arthur and started unraveling tales from his youth, stories bubbling with mischief and adventure. I listened, enwrapped and grateful, momentarily forgetting my anxieties as we shared laughter over shared experiences, but as the warmth of conversation wrapped around us, Arthur's expression shifted. His smile faded as he leaned closer. "You see, son, life can be dreadfully heavy at times. But sometimes, what truly matters is finding your own light, even in the darkest corners." His voice took on a solemn tone, and I felt the weight of his words settling into my heart. Just when I thought we were embarking on a new journey of connection, Arthur's gaze pierced through mine, and he revealed an unexpected twist. "I know what it's like to lose everything. To lose hope. I once had a son who he trailed off, choking on the weight of his unspoken memories. You remind me of him." My heart jerked, the words hanging dangerously in the air like an unresolved chord. In that moment, it struck Muhail this encounter felt like a potential pivot. Into healing, the path before me was still shrouded in uncertainty. What revelations awaited, and could I bear the weight of more losses to come? And just as I prepared to question him further, the cafe door swung open, allowing a gust of wind that carried a faint echo of a child's laugh. I recognized it instantly, the laughter of that little girl. I jolted upright, scanning the doorway. My heart raced, every instinct screaming that this moment was no coincidence. Hope and trembling intertwined in my heart, and I leaned forward, grasping for answers in the space between us as the air thickened with possibilities. Who would walk through that door? I held my breath, feeling the tide of fate pulling me into the unknown. The moment stood frozen, like a painting suspended in time, a breath held in anticipation. The laughter echoed again, clearer, this to me a sweet, carefree sound that felt both familiar and achingly distant. I squinted towards the doorway, my heartbeat quickening as I tried to decipher the flicker of movement beyond the threshold. "That is everything all right?" Arthur's gentle voice broke through my haze of hope and anxiety. I tore my gaze from him, trying to steady my racing pulse. "Yes, just give me a moment," I stammered, anxiety flooding my senses. The cafe buzzed around me, unaware of the tempest brewing in my heart. Was this a sign? Could it be her? The child who had once caused my heart to flutter with a sense of unexpected connection and warmth. Each laugh danced on the edge of my memory, urging me to surrender, to chase after the serendipitous thread life had woven back into my existence. That I glanced back towards Arthur, who observed me keenly, sensing the shift in my focus. "You'll never know until you find out, my boy," he said softly, an understanding passing between us, born of shared burdens and uncharted territories of grief and hope. Mustered courage surged within me, and I rose from my chair, leaving my untouched hot chocolate behind like a forgotten mirage. My heart was a drum beating wild rhythms of anticipation as I stepped towards the entrance, each footfall cementing my resolve. As my hand closed around the door handle, the laughter transformed into an inaudible whisper in my mind, guiding me. I swung the door open against the chilling gust, peering out into a world freshly washed by rain. My breath caught as I took in the sight before me, there she was, that little girl from the park, her bright yellow raincoat shining against the gloom like a sunbeam in a storm. She stood with her back to me, her hair a tousled mess, her laughter spilling over as she leaped in puddles, oblivious to the world around her. Above her, a woman hovered, her mother, I presumed, a figure cloaked in kindness as she laughed and encouraged her daughter's playful abandon, Anya. The woman called, the warmth in her voice wrapping around me like a mother's embrace, something about the way the girl spun, arms outstretched towards the sky, evoked a tidal wave of nostalgia that rippled through me. Memories of joy interwoven with sadness flooded my mind. But there was no time to linger, the moment sparked a fire in my chest, a chance to break the silence, to connect once more, Anya. I called, the name slipping off my tongue like an incantation, a prayer desperate for acknowledgement. She paused mid-jump, her face turning towards me, those sparkling eyes locked onto mine, wide with surprise. You! She shouted, her voice slicing through the air with the clarity of a bell. And in that instant, I felt the overwhelming pull of that fragile string of connection we had shared, stretched across our lives by the universe's unseen hand. That I took a tentative step forward, her gleeful smile igniting something inside me I had thought long extinguished. Do you remember me? I asked, unable to keep the tremor from my voice. Her little brow creased, searching my face as if she were unraveling a puzzle. The art! She exclaimed, her laughter spilling out again, brightening the dreary day that had threatened to suffocate me. You gave me a drawing. It was so pretty. The warmth of her recognition wrapped around my heart like a soft blanket. It wasn't merely a fleeting encounter, it was a key that unlocked so much more, a reminder of the simple joys that could still pierce through the fog of despair. That I in the backdrop, I noticed her mother watching me, her expression shifting from surprise to curiosity, mirroring my feelings of unease and hope. There you are. Sometimes, the world brings people back for a reason, she said, her voice carrying a depth of warmth, knitting our stories together. Just when I thought I could breathe easy, a sudden heaviness settled upon me. The weight of my reality crashed inward like darkness threatening to engulf the light. Too wasn't sure I could come back. From everything, I whispered, nearly to myself more than anyone else. What do you mean? Anya asked, tilting her head, her innocence a sharp contrast to my turmoil, and before I could reply, the cafe door behind me swung open abruptly, a tint of chaos breaking in. A tall figure burst through, a familiarity that sent my heart into a dizzying spin. It was Theo, the friend I hadn't seen in years, his face drawn, taut with desperation. Hey! He called, eyes searching the crowd. I've been looking for you everywhere. You need to come with me now. Time froze. Anya's joyous expression flickered, uncertainty threading through her bright eyes. I shot a bewildered glance back at Arthur, whose knowing gaze seemed to question everything I was about to face. A simple act of kindness had reignited a spark in me, yet darkness loomed at the edges of my newfound light. The weight of my past and the uncertainty of the present clashed violently within me. What's going on? I stuttered, equally anxious and confused. But as Theo beckoned me forward, desperate urgency painted across his features, I couldn't shake the feeling I stood at a precipice teetering between hope and devastation. Whatever light I grasped was now clouded by uncertainty, and I felt lost again in an emotional haze. What is it? I forced out, fearing the rippling consequences of the answer. And with a hasty breath, he shaped the words that could forever alter my course. Something's happened. We need to talk. In that moment, the promise of connection flickered like a candle fighting against a storm, a fragile moment teetering on the brink of revelation. My breath clung to my lungs as the weight of fate bore down, echoing with the laughter of a child, urging me to forge ahead into the unknown. The air hung heavy with unspoken fears as I froze on the threshold of decision, caught in the swaying tides of Anya's laughter and the stormy pull of Theo's urgency. The warmth I had so recently unearthed flickered before me, a candlelight in the darkening corridors of my mind, now overshadowed by the implications of Theo's arrival. Anya stepped closer, still smiling, her innocence a stark contrast to my turmoil. Are you okay? She asked, her wide eyes searching my face, the concerned furrow between her brows revealing an impossible wisdom for someone so young. I wanted to reassure her, to spin a tale of joy and safety, but my voice felt jagged, my heart a cauldron of dread. That I'll be fine, I murmured, but the words fell flat, lacking conviction. I tore my gaze away from her, feeling a pang of guilt as I prepared to step away from the connection that had bloomed so brightly in a matter of minutes. The kind woman who was Anya's mother now stood by, her demeanor both supportive and watchful, the maternal instinct radiating from her as if she sensed the struggle within me. Maybe you should hear him out, she suggested softly, her voice gentle, like a balm on my chafed soul. Sometimes the world pushes us in unexpected ways, showing us what we need to face. The weight of her words struck deep, wrapping around my heart like threads of an unfinished tapestry, suggesting that perhaps facing the darkness was an essential thread of my life story. Yet, standing there, it felt like a mockery of hope, as if the universe was once again toying with me in its cruel game. But then there was Anya. Her small hand reached for mine, thin fingers grasping tightly, lending me her youth and vibrancy. "You can come back, can't you? You won't leave?" she asked, her voice a sweet promise, a demand filled with naive hope. "Anya," I choked on the words, feeling the inevitable pull of reality. The nostalgia that had enveloped me moments ago suddenly felt like a distant echo, battling against a tide of rising fear. But a flicker of hope ignited at the thought of her innocence, a reminder of the pure joy that existed outside of my grief. "Come with me," Theo insisted again with an undertone of urgency. He stepped forward, his desperate eyes drawing me back towards him. "It's about the gallery. You need to know this right now." Shivers danced down my spine as his words sent an electric shock through me. The gallery, a place that had once been a sanctuary for my art and soul, was now a ghostly memory I feared I may never reclaim. I had thought I could leave that part of my life behind, sever the ties and let the waves of grief wash it all away. But as Theo's expression morphed between panic and determination, I realized that those familiar threads might still be tangled in the chaos of my present. "Do you really have to go?" Anya's plea pulled me back into the moment. My heart twisted painfully, torn between the child's unwavering belief and the man who fought against his own demons. "I don't know," I whispered, caught in a maelstrom of emotions. The warmth of Anya's grasp was a lifeline pulling me back, and yet Theo's looming question was a tide compelling me forward. "Please, just trust me," he implored, his jaw clenched. He looked more like a warrior standing on the front lines than the friend I once knew. I glimpsed the worry in his eyes that mirrored my own. "Something is happening at the gallery, something big. You need to be there or else," he stammered, frustration threading his tone. "We can't afford to let this slip away." My thoughts jumbled in a disarray, torn between Anya's quiet magic and Theo's stormy urgency. A crack of vulnerability unfurled. "What is it, Theo? What's happening?" He hesitated, his gaze darting towards Anya, as if gauging the implications of revealing the possible disaster. I dug my fingers into the reassuring warmth of her tiny hand, reminding myself that whatever the answer lay beyond the door, I couldn't let fear guide my choices. "Someone bought the gallery, but they don't just want the space, they want to erase everything we built. They're not just interested in artwork, they want to tear apart the heart of it, true work." His voice held an apprehensive edge, a mixture of betrayal and looming loss. That I felt the ground shift beneath me, and a whirlwind of emotions crashed over the fragile thread of hope I had been grasping. It felt like the universe had ripped open a wound I was barely keeping closed. The gallery was my light, my potential, yet now it surfaced as another loss to navigate. My heart sank as I wondered if the universe had dragged me into this moment only to further dismantle the fragile peace I had just forged. Anya tightened her hold on me, sensing the tremors of despair creeping around my heart, a delicate anchor as I began to slip into the uncertainty of lost dreams. She didn't know the stakes, she only saw the panic in my eyes, but it tethered something profound in my heart. "I'll come with you," I finally found the strength to say, my voice hoarse, laced with reluctance. I turned slightly, feeling the quiet warmth of the rain-soaked air pressing against my skin, half excited, half dreading whatever lay ahead, and as I turned to leave with Theo, Anya's soft voice broke through once more, her lineage of magic hanging around her like a halo. "You'll come back, right? You wouldn't leave without saying goodbye?" I glanced back, pain shooting through my chest at the uncertainty brewing behind her smile. "I promise," I replied, even as I wondered if I would keep that promise. the door creaked shut behind me as I stepped into the stormy world outside, a new darkness settling over my heart as I wondered what lay waiting for me at the gallery and whether the ghosts of my past would hold me back yet again. Each footstep became heavier, the weight of choices leading me deeper into uncertainty, and into the realms of what I feared most. A nameless dread loomed like a shadow, whispering that perhaps this time, I would not be able to break free. The rain drummed a relentless rhythm against the pavement, a haunting backdrop for my troubled thoughts as Theo and I walked in tense silence. Each step felt as if it were weighted with burdens too heavy to carry, and I could feel the storm simmering within me, threatening to emerge and engulf everything. There was an urgency in Theo's stride, a fire in his eyes that betrayed the depth of his concern, yet it felt like an intrusion into a moment that demanded calm, introspection, a respect for the emotional minefield we were navigating. "What's the plan?" I asked finally, my voice strained and fragile in the tempest of my uncertainty. Theo took a deep breath, running a hand through his damp hair. "We need to gather the old team. I have contacts who might help us fend off this threat. It's more than just the gallery, it's what it represents," he said, his eyes flickering with the spark of determination that had always drawn me to him. "If we let them take it from us, all those years of our lives, our dreams, they'll vanish before we even get to fight." That a shiver coursed through me. In that moment, I was transported back to laughter shared in the gallery's exhibition hall, to the electric energy pulsing through us when our art connected with others. Could I bear to watch it slip from our grip, to witness the erasure of our dreams? The thought settled heavily in my chest yet also ignited a flicker of defiance. In the raw quiet that followed, a small, old woman appeared at the corner of a nearby street, her cart piled high with flowers glistening from the rain. She spotted us and her face broke into a gentle smile, as if we were the long-lost friends she had been waiting for. Against the storm's harshness, her warmth sent a flutter through me, and I found myself hesitating. "Hey," I nodded toward her, unable to resist the allure of her presence. "Let's get something." Theo eyed me quizzically but eventually followed suit, our frantic pace slowing as we approached her cart. "Pick something lovely, dear," she said, her voice soft as velvet. I could see the way her eyes twinkled with kindness, as if she could see the storm brewing within me and wished to disperse it in any way she could. The blooms were vibrant, resplendent explosions of life amidst the dreariness of our surroundings. My fingers grazed the petals of a golden daffodil, and for a fleeting moment, I felt the weight of despair lift. I handed over a few crumpled bills, deliberately ignoring the way my heart clenched with reluctance. "Thank you," I murmured, taking the flower as the old woman wrapped it in delicate paper. "Tenderness is a rare flower," she replied with a knowing smile, her gaze lingering on me just a touch longer, holding a deep knowing that cut through my turmoil like a beacon. "Remember, it thrives on care." Her words hung heavy in the air, a reminder that in the midst of chaos and heartache, kindness still had the power to bloom. I felt the echo of Anya's laughter and her innocent faith in me swell inside my chest, mingling with the warmth from this stranger's compassion. I took a moment to appreciate the significance of that daffodil. It was a chance to nurture hope amidst the rubble of fear. Theo looked down at the flower in my hand and then back at me, eyebrow raised. "What the hell are you doing?" I shrugged, a reluctant smile creeping onto my lips. "Just remembering something important." He waved his hand through the air dismissively, trying to shake off the moment, but I could sense a softening in his stance, just slightly. "Whatever helps keep you anchored," he muttered. As we resumed our trek toward the gallery, I clutched the flower between my fingers, a fragile reminder of the kindness that still existed in the storm. But as we approached the block that housed the gallery, I felt my heart thudding loudly in my chest. The building loomed ahead like a beast waiting to swallow us whole, shadows dancing on the walls as if whispering secrets I wasn't ready to hear. "What do you see?" Theo asked, trying to draw me out of my reverie as we paused on the sidewalk. "Memories," I breathed, "mind." Drifting into a myriad of moments, each brushstroke, each laugh shared, echoes of our hard work glowing brightly even against the looming threat. Yet an ominous darkness began to settle in my gut, twisting it into knots that I never wanted to lose this. "We built this together," I murmured, trying to cling to the scent of hope lingering from the flower and the warmth of Theo at my side. "Then we'll fight for it." His voice was resolute, yet I detected a crack of uncertainty beneath the surface, a thread of the very same worry threading through our unspoken fears. Just as I squeezed the flower in my hand, ready to embrace what lay inside, a sudden bolt of lightning illuminated the sky, casting jagged shadows in every direction. We turned and saw the unmistakable figure emerging from the far end of the block, a man cloaked entirely in dark attire, his aura cold and menacing, eyes glinting with a predatory thrill. "Now, it's time to lay your heart on the line," Theo muttered, the tension cracking our fragile truce like glass underfoot. The figure reached the gallery's entrance, and a shiver of foreboding descended upon me. The storm within me flared anew. Who was he, and what threat did he pose? My grip on the daffodil tightened, an unwilling yet potent promise of the fight ahead. But in that moment, amidst flickering hope and unfurling dread, an echo of ancient certainty thrummed through Mesometimes. Hope and fear didn't just exist in opposition, they could intertwine to create resilience. Yet just as that realization took hold, the man turned to face us, his sinister smile slicing through the storm of uncertainty, his voice melodic and chilling. "Welcome back. I've been expecting you." And just like that, with that single ominous statement, the world spun away from me, trailing behind like a shadow, as reality trembled beneath the weight of something unfathomably a challenge I had not yet prepared to face. The air crackled, a charged silence hanging between us that mirrored the storm overhead. Fear twisted in my stomach as I stared into the cold eyes of the man before us, their glint suggesting a knowledge he shouldn't possess. It was as if he had walked out of the very shadows that wrapped around the gallery, pulling forth the nightmares I thought I had tucked away. "What do you want?" Theo's voice trembled only slightly, revealing the edge of anxiety that lurked beneath his brave facade. I admired his efforts to shield me from the tension, but it only added to my fear. The threat loomed larger when he appeared so resolute. The man took a deliberate step forward, his movements calculated and smooth, like oil cascading on a calm surface. "Ah, Theo, always the brave knight." "And you, Zara," he said, his eyes narrowing as they landed upon me, "you've grown since the last time we crossed paths. I hope you've also grown stronger, for the storm is far from over." I felt my heart quicken, memories of past confrontations flooding through moments I desperately wished to bury deeper within the recesses of my mind. That sinking dread of knowing he spoke from a history I desperately wanted to escape. "Your threats don't scare us," I said, attempting to summon a confidence I didn't feel. "Whatever you think you can take from us, it won't happen." He chuckled softly, the sound low and menacing, a soft breeze that chilled the surrounding warmth. "Oh, I wouldn't dream of taking. It's much more enjoyable to watch you fight for what's yours as it slips right through your fingers." With every word he uttered, my grip on hope loosened, the vibrant petals of the daffodil starting to wilt under the weight of his presence. The city around us faded, and the storm raged on, drenching me not only in rain but in a sense of impending doom. "What do you know?" Theo pressed, stepping closer, a protective stance against the encroaching darkness, yet I could sense his own uncertainty creeping in. It was reminiscent of an invisible tether pulling us both deeper into a whirlpool of our fears. The very gallery we had fought so hard to build was now a battleground fraught with peril. "What I know," he replied, a glint of amusement flickering in his eyes, "is that chaos is a powerful force. People change when they are desperate, they reveal their true selves." He leaned in, a predatory smile etched on his face. "How far are you willing to go, Zara? How much darkness can you embrace to protect your dreams?" His gaze bore into mine with an intensity that brought panic surging through me. It was an unexpected opening into a realm I feared to explore. The fight for the gallery spiraled outward, into the depths of my own battles against despair, doubt, and fear. "Things aren't what they seem," I whispered, almost to myself. A flicker of warmth from the daffodil ignited as I thought of the old woman. Their kindness, their tenderness, it had filled this dark moment with just enough light to keep fear at bay. "You think kindness will protect you?" he taunted, his words slicing through my resolve. "And where has it gotten you? The world is brutal, Zara. Survival demands abandon," and there it was, the cold truth spat back at me like fire. I shivered under the realization that perhaps he was right, that love and warmth could often wilt before cruelty. Yet I clung desperately to that fading flower, as if clinging to my humanity. Drawing in a breath, I narrowed my eyes at him. "I would rather hold on to the possibility of kindness and love than sink into the darkness you seem so fond of." He frowned, surprise flickering across his features momentarily before he regained his composure, perhaps annoyed that my spirit still flickered, albeit weakly. "Be careful, then," he said, voice dropping to a whisper meant only for me, because my patience wears thin, and plots unfold when you least expect them. With a final glance, the man turned on his heel, disappearing back into the shadowed streets, much like a nightmare retreating at dawn yet leaving lingering echoes of terror behind. Zara, Theo rushed to my side, the worry etched deep across his brow. What did he mean by plots? What does he know? I could only shake my head, the adrenaline coursing through me, conflicting with a deep sense of foreboding that wrapped tighter around my heart. "I don't know, but he knows something that might destroy us if we're not careful." And as we stood paralyzed at the edge of our past and future, the gust of wind carried away my whispered plea to the Universito find me strength, to ground me through the turbulent waves of fate. The daffodil trembled within my grasp, a small act of kindness blooming brightly yet held together by only the thinnest thread against the encroaching shadows. "Well, figure this out," Theo murmured, placing a hand on my shoulder as if his touch could shield me from the chaos unfolding around us. But just as a tentative hope began to settle, a low rumble echoed above. Could it be thunder? Or were the forces around us stirring with malicious intent? The darkening clouds seemed to clamor ominously, rolling shadows promising conflict and sacrifice. Before I could voice my fears, my phone buzzed in my pocket, disrupting the heavy silence. Trembling, I pulled it out and stared at the screen, the message flashing ominously before my eyes. "I know where they are. Meet me at midnight." What did this mean? Who was it meant for? And yet, as my heart raced, dread coiling like a serpent within, I knew only one thing for certain: the time for decisions was upon us, and the midnight hour would shift the scales of every conflict both within me and in the world around me. The night descended like a heavy blanket, wrapping around the city in a cloak of darkness. The storm had settled into a roaring crescendo, thrumming against the rooftops like a wild beast trapped in a cage. I clutched my phone tightly, the glow of the screen a stark contrast to the shadows that curled around us. "Zara?" Theo's voice cut through my turbulent thoughts. "What does the message say?" It's from someone I don't know," I stammered, the words caught in my throat. "They want to meet me at midnight. They say they know where they are." "Where? Who is?" His brow furrowed with confusion and concern. I felt the threads of my thoughts spinning apart. The darkness clung to me, paralyzing my courage. How many they had I encountered in my life? How many moments had I entrusted my heart only for it to be ground to dust in the end? But here was this opportunity, perhaps a chance to untangle the web that had ensnared us. "Zara." Theo's voice broke through my reverie. "Are you listening?" "I am," I whispered, trying to ground myself. I don't know if we can trust this person, that we have to find out what they know. If there's a chance this can help, we have to take it. Together." His eyes reflected a fearful determination that ignited a flicker of hope within me. The storm raged on outside, but in that moment, I felt myself drawn in by his resolve, that anchor of love we had forged amid the chaos of our lives. "Okay," I breathed, "but we should be careful. We don't know what we're walking into." Theo nodded, but I sensed his apprehension. "We can do this. Just tell me what you need." That we hurried through the downpour, the rain soaking us to the bone, but I found strength in our shared purpose. Every step towards the meeting place felt like a small act of resistance against the darkness that threatened to overtake us. As we turned down a narrow alley, the shadows loomed larger, the city now stripped of its vibrancy. A flickering street lamp cast a fragile light on the slick cobblestones, creating a ghostly path beneath our feet. I glanced sideways at Theo, his face taut with worry, and felt a swell of affection for him, partner in this dance with destiny. We arrived at the meeting point, a rusted bench beneath an awning dripping with rainwater. My heart quickened as I checked the time. We had arrived just before midnight. Anxiety clawed at me as I wondered who would show up and what their intentions might be. After what felt like an eternity, the sound of footsteps echoed through the rain-soaked night. A figure emerged from the Shadowsa woman, her face half hidden beneath a hood. My breath hitched at the sight. She looked familiar, almost comforting, but it was hard to place her in my racing mind. "Zara," she spoke, her voice masked by the rain, soft yet commanding. "Theo, how do you know our names?" I asked, my defenses rising instinctively. "I know much more than that," she replied, stepping closer and revealing her face in the dim light. I gasped as recognition surged. It was the old woman from the gallery, the one who had once showered me with affection and wisdom, a rare glimmer of kindness in a world that often felt too harsh. "Oh, it's you," I stuttered, caught between relief and confusion. "What are you doing here? Time is running out." Her gaze flickered between us, an urgency resonating in her tone. "There are forces at play that you do not fully understand. You must prepare yourselves for what is to come. The stakes are higher than you know." "What do you mean? What's going to happen?" Theo pressed, taking a step forward. "He plans to use your gallery as a pawn, to draw out and manipulate the vulnerabilities hidden deep within you both," she explained, her voice trembling with emotion. "He knows your past, your fears. And he is counting on your weaknesses to bring you down." A chill swept through me, an icy claw gripping my heart. All those moments of uncertainty, the whispers of doubt I thought I could silence, had they all been laid bare for him to exploit? I glanced at Theo, whose expression mirrored my dread. "But we won't let that happen," I said, feeling a surge of defiance rising within. "I refuse to be a pawn in his game." The old woman nodded, her features softening. "You are stronger than you realize. Both of you. But the choices ahead may require more than bravery. They may require sacrifice." "Sacrifice?" Theo echoed, disbelief shadowing his brow. "Yes," she said thoughtfully, "you may have to confront the very parts of yourselves you wish to forget. You'll need to find allies, those willing to stand against the shadows. But remember, the bond you share will be both your greatest strength and your most potent vulnerability." As her words settled into my mind, I felt the weight of impending decisions pressing down like the heavy rain above us. Something in her gaze hinted at troubling depths beyond our current dilemma. "Will you help us?" I implored, searching for support in her understanding eyes. And then, in a blink, just as quickly as she had come, she reached out to grasp my hand, warmth radiating from her touch despite the chill of the night. In that fleeting moment, I grasped the significance of her presence, behavior wrapped in both affection and urgency. "I will help," she pledged softly, "but you must understand, once you venture down this road, there's no turning back." Just then, a thunderous crash erupted from above, lightning splitting the sky, illuminating the alleyway momentarily. My heart raced as I glanced around, unsettled by the feeling we were being watched. A strangled noise escaped Theo's throat as he tensed beside me. "Zara!" A shadow moved in the distance, larger and more sinister than before. The realization hit me like an icy dagger: we were no longer alone. The old woman's features tightened, warning us before we even began to process the urgency of our situation. "You must leave, now. Trust no one but each other. Do not look back." In that pulse-pounding instant, lights flickered out, plunging us back into obscurity as the clouds roared above us. The air shimmered thick with fear, and terror gripped my heart, paralyzing me in the dimness. We started to move, spurred by raw instinct, a desperate escape from the shadow of the unknown that loomed ever closer, ready to swallow us whole. But just as we tore away, a cry echoed from the depths of the Alemi name, a chilling summons sent forth like a dagger thrown by unseen hands. "Zara!" The voice was undeniably familiar, sending shockwaves through my being. It echoed not from Theo, but from those tangled depths of my past, someone I had prayed to never encounter again. And as the mystery unraveled in real time, the storm crashed around us, and I felt the delicate, fraying threads of my life entwined with an unraveling future. I could sense that surrendering the fight was not an option. But with the storm at our backs and specters from our past at our heels, I understood that even with hope flickering dimly, choices loomed ahead that could reshape everything or tear us apart completely. The rain pounded relentlessly against the pavement, each drop a relentless reminder of the chaos closing in around us. Theo and I sprinted down the alley, my heart racing not just from the fear of the unknown, but from the voice that had called out to me, a voice I had not hoped to hear again: "Zara." It rang out once more, more urgent than before. I hesitated, the instinct to turn back clashing with the knowledge that doing so could open a door to the past I had fought so hard to escape. The memory of that voice twisted my insides, pulling at old wounds I thought had scabbed over. With each step, I battled my own thoughts, a tumult of fear and unresolved emotions. Zara. Wait. Thea's grip tightened on my arm, his raw urgency pulling me back from the edge of my spiraling thoughts. We can't stop. Not now that I know, I murmured, fighting the tides of uncertainty. But it feels like they know me, whoever it is, we can't let them find us, he insisted as we skittered around a corner and into another street, our footsteps splashing through rainwater. Each swell of the city lights flickering overhead felt like a warning, illuminating the fragility of our situation. Just as my resolve began to wane, the old woman's prophecy resounded in my mind, trust no one but each other, you have to promise me, I said, cutting through the thundering rain. No matter what, we stay together. We can't let our pasts fracture this moment that I promise, Theo replied firmly, determination etched across his face. In that moment, I knew that whatever darkness awaited us, we would face it side by side. Yet, as we ran, that dangerous voice echoed again, growing nearer, a haunting reminder that the past was not just a ghost lurking in the shadows, but a reality demanding recognition. You can't run forever, it seemed to whisper over the cacophony of the storm, wrapping around my thoughts like a chilling embrace. That we stumbled into a narrow side street, a sanctuary amid the storm. Leaning against the wall, I tried to catch my breath. My mind reeled, but Thea's steady presence grounded me. Zara, what do we do if they find us? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper, drenched with worry. We stand firm, I replied, the weight of the truth hitting me hard. We face them, as terrifying as that may be. Before I could elaborate, a glimmer of light caught my eye from the window of a nearby coffee, a faint beacon amidst the deluge. It was unremarkable, but it offered a sliver of warmth that seemed inviting in the overarching bleakness. Let's go in, I suggested, knowing that the space, though small, could provide us with a minute of respite while we weighed our options. The thought of entering a space filled with strangers made my skin prickle, but the storm had drained us both. That we ducked inside, immediately greeted by the smell of freshly brewed coffee and baked goods, a stark contrast to the chaos outside. The ambience wrapped around me like a warm blanket. As we settled into a corner booth, our eyes darted around the cafe, searching for any sign of danger. A group of patrons gathered in the background, their laughter a fleeting reminder of normalcy. But my heart still raced, unease pooling in my stomach. I'll grab us some coffee, Theo offered, his voice strained as he sensed my tension. I nodded absently, trying to gather my thoughts. As he stepped away, I leaned on the table, my fingers brushing against the smooth surface, trying to quiet the tempest within me. It was then I spotted her, a woman seated alone at the table adjacent to us, her expression contemplative, almost illuminating in the gloom. She caught my eye and offered a soft smile, and for a moment, something flickered in her gaze. Was it recognition? A sense of knowing? It pulled me unexpectedly from the grip of my fears. Are you okay? She asked, her tone gentle yet charged with an understanding that sliced through my turmoil. I stared at her, uncertain how to respond. Was it safe to confide? I am just overwhelmed, I admitted. Things are complicated right now. Her expression shifted, and she leaned closer. Sometimes life leads us down dangerous paths, she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. But kindness can change everything. Don't lose sight of that. Before I could process her words, Theo appeared with 2 steaming cups, a worried expression flickering across his features as he noticed the exchange. You ready? He asked, wary of the stranger, yet I felt a spark of connection that transcended the moment. Yes, I responded softly, but never taking my eyes off the woman, still bearing that knowing smile. We need a plan. As we sipped our coffee, I felt the low hum of my heart slowly returning to its rhythm, but the calm wouldn't last. For outside, the storm had not only been physical, with it came the shadows of our past returning to claim their toll. Suddenly, the door swung open with a violent gust, water pooling on the floor as a familiar figure stepped inside, drenched and preternaturally calm. My breath caught in my throat as I recognized the man who had haunted my nightmares. Zara, his voice echoed, both chilling and tantalizing. "It's time to come home," that I froze, fear intertwining with raw recognition, the taste of betrayal heavy in the air. The room felt electric, the laughter around us fading, and I sensed Theo's body tense beside me. With one deliberate step forward, he drew the attention of the cafe, the weight of our choices looming larger than ever before. As he locked eyes with me, I caught a glimpse of those familiar shadows slipping back into my life, echoes of betrayal threatening to rip apart everything I had fought for. And with every second, the storm outside turned into a distant hum against the tempest gathering within. Whatever kindness had sparked in that glass cafe was now overshadowed by the truth that I could no longer hide from. This confrontation was not just a reckoning with the past, it was the beginning of a battle I had to choose to fight, or face the consequences of my silence. In that defining moment, I knew we were at a crossroads, with darkness looming at our back and the weight of the world ahead. The moment his voice reached me, it felt as if the air had thickened with all the weight of the past I had tried so hard to escape. My pulse quickened as I processed the reality standing just a few feet away. The man who had once been my everything was now the embodiment of my greatest fears, James, a spectral figure who seemed to breathe chaos into every corner of my existence. As I met his gaze, time felt suspended. He had always possessed a strange kind of calm, one that belied the turbulence he brought into my life. "Zara," he repeated, each syllable laced with a mix of longing and an unsettling sense of entitlement. "It's time to come home." No, Theo's voice cut through the heavy silence that wrapped around us, fierce and protective. His grip on my hand tightened, anchoring me in that moment. It was as if the entire cafe held its breath, patrons frozen mid-conversation, caught in the undertow of this dramatic revelation. "Home." I managed to whisper, the word tasting bitter on my tongue. "You mean the place where everything fell apart? The place where you left me shattered?" James took another step forward, his demeanor so deceptively calm, as though he could reach for me without effort. "You misunderstand," he said, his tone shifting subtly, cloaked in false affection. "We had something real, Zara. It's never too late." No, I shook my head, a whirlwind of hurt and disbelief crashing through me. "You don't get to come back and pretend like it was real. You walked away from the left when I needed you the most." "Zara, please," he implored, a flicker of true desperation breaking through his composed facade. "I've changed. We can fix this if you just give me a chance." No. The word escaped before I could stop myself, filled with the weight of years spent healing scars he had caused. "What you did was beyond repair. I'm not that girl anymore, James." The cafe was alive with whispers, an audience caught in the theater of our memories, their gazes heavy with curiosity. I could feel Theo shifting beside me, radiating a protective energy that enveloped us. The thought of his unwavering support momentarily bolstered my resolve. "Zara." James' voice escalated, pushing past the air of disbelief that hung between us. "You're still running from it. From us. You have to stop pretending like it didn't matter." "You don't understand," I shot back, heat rising in my chest. "I'm not hiding. I'm choosing to live. To move forward. You had your chance, and you squandered it." An unexpected moment of understanding pierced through the clamoring tension, as the kind woman from the adjacent table rose gently, taking what felt like a bold stance. "Sometimes, love feels like it can't breathe, especially when it's smothered by the past," she said, her voice steady yet soft, as she approached. "But there's always a choice to be made." "Who are you?" James regarded her, narrowing his eyes with an intensity that didn't sit right. It was a warning, his charm barely belying the threat that was woven into his very being. "I am someone who understands," she replied confidently, her presence somehow calming the chaos. "Zara deserves the chance to choose a life worth living." With her bravery, I felt a flicker of hope, the warmth of shared understanding like an ember threatening to ignite. "You're right," I nodded at her, feeling the weight of her compassion extend to me. "I deserve more than my past. I deserve peace." But James wasn't finished. The fire in his eyes flared, igniting darker shadows as he moved closer. "You think you can stand there and allow someone else to speak on your behalf? They don't know you like I do." His words were jagged, aimed to cut, to instill that familiar sense of insecurity that I realized, standing there with Theo beside me and the inexplicable ally of the kind woman facing James, that this wasn't just a confrontation between me and James, it was a moment to claim my life back, the culmination of all those aches clamoring for resolution. "We all have our stories, James," I said, my voice gaining strength. "But I'm no longer a character in yours. It's my turn to write my own narrative, one where I won't shrink in the face of your presence." For a brief moment, silence enveloped us. The cafe, awash with the aromas of coffee and sugar, stood still, eyes glued to the unfolding drama. I could feel the tide of uncertainty lapping gently at the edges of my resolve, but with every heartbeat, the weight began to lift, creating space for the possibility of liberation. But as I stood there, hesitation thickening the air, James took a slow breath, the corner of his mouth twitching into something almost like a smirk. "You think you're free, don't you?" he remarked, his voice lowering conspiratorially. "But I know about the secret you're hiding. And you'll see, Zara, it's not as easy to escape your past as you'd like to believe." The weight of his words pressed down on me, engulfing the air in the cafe. A chill ran through me, unearthing long-buried fears. What did he know? A new, primal fear clawed at my insides, leaving me in a state of near panic. "Don't listen to him," Theo urged, moving slightly in front of me as if to shield me from James's reach. I could hardly respond, my mind racing to comprehend the implications of his statement. Whatever he intended to say, it felt like a bomb ticking down to an inevitable detonation, every second closer to unraveling everything I had built in the shadows of my past. Before I could speak, the kind woman stepped forward again, her presence a small but fierce barrier, breaking the tension momentarily. "They think they hold the power over you, but only you can decide to walk away from this shadow. And we will stand with you." But with James' haunting words lingering in the air, I knew that this confrontation was far from over, and the battle lines were drawn more sharply than ever. Would I have the strength to confront the dark secret he hinted at, or would it become a weapon to shatter the fragile life I had painstakingly tried to construct? And as stern determination mixed with uncertainty swirled within me, I realized I had to prepare for whatever revelation might come next, a truth that could either unravel me or finally set me free. The cafe buzzed with tension, time stretching out like an elastic band about to snap as I stared at James, the embodiment of everything I had fought so hard to leave behind. His presence felt like a noose tightening around my spirit, a leash woven from our shared past. The whispers of the patrons faded into a low hum, their gaze hovering over the unfolding drama as though they were unwilling witnesses to the resurfacing of buried memories. "This isn't the time for games, James," I said, my voice rising above the noise, breaking through the fog of fear. The weight of the past pressed down on me, each word a resistance against the tide trying to pull me back under. "I'm not here for you. Not anymore." That he stepped closer, indifference oozing from his every word, "But you will always be part of my story. You can't just erase what's been written." And beneath the playfulness of his tone, I sensed the lurking venom hidden in the shadows of his resolve. It was an attack aimed to expose my vulnerability, as he would always reminding me of old fears, insecurities I thought I could silence. That I could see Theo's clenched fists beside me, a protective fire bubbling beneath the surface. The kindness from the woman in the corner seemed to wrap around us, an implied solidarity urging us forward. And as my own storm of emotions raged, I took a shaky breath, finding clarity amid the chaos. "You don't get to define my worth, James." My voice strengthened. "What you see as a tether is actually a chain I'm choosing to break. My story doesn't center around you, it's mine to write." The moment hung heavy in the air, silence draping over us like a thick curtain, and I could almost hear the collective gasp from the onlookers. And then I registered a shift in James' expression. The amusement faded, replaced by something darker and more dangerous. "Good luck trying to forget." His voice dripped with poison, and almost reflexively, my heart sank at the implication, whispers of doubt curling around my thoughts. What did he know? What secret was he threatening to reveal? Before I could spiral into the depths of my fears, the woman beside me leaned forward, her expression fierce and resolute. "You've placed too much power in his hands," she said, addressing me directly. "Release the hold he has over your heart and mind. Sometimes, it's not only others who try to control our narrative but also the fears we harbor ourselves. Thunder rumbled in the distance, but I was grounded by her words, a gentle reminder that while my past might have shaped me, it wouldn't dictate my future. I had wrestled through the dark night of despair, battled the shadows, and found my way back into the light. It was finally time to reclaim it fully, but then, emboldened by my resolve, something twisted in Jameis' eyes, and he shot back, "You think you're brave enough to walk away? To ignore the truth I carry? You don't even know what you're hiding." A surge of confusion washed over me at his implications, the uncertainty knocking against my resolve. I glanced sideways at Theo, his gaze steady, unyielding. A silent reassurance flowed between us. No matter the secrets or burdens, we would stand united against whatever tide threatened to drown us. "That I refuse to be part of your past any longer," I replied firmly, leveling my gaze at him. A flicker of defiance ignited in my chest, the thread of hope weaving tighter around my heart. "Whatever truth you think you possess can't reach me here. I've let go of your poison," but his smirk broadened, calculating as if my conviction fed into his plan. "Well, see about that. Shadows linger far deeper than you know, Zara." At that moment, the old woman stepped closer again, urgency radiating from her. "You must confront your truth, Zara. You cannot let fear dictate your next moves. That is the power he seeks, it's a weapon against you." She had an otherworldly aura, like she carried wisdom from centuries past. Yet her words thrummed with the reminder that sometimes, the darkest demons weren't just external threats but monsters harbored within ourselves. A rush of adrenaline coursed through me. Was not alone in this. I had fought this battle alone too long, succumbing to the pressures of silence and shame. It was time not to allow fear to be my portrait, my representation. I would reclaim my narrative, no holds barred. "Fine, James," I said, taking a cautious step forward, heart hammering against my ribcage. "If you have some grand revelation, then say it. Show me what you think you know. But understand this: you can no longer hurt me." His expression shifted momentarily, something akin to surprise washing over his face. Then, like a predator scenting weakness, he pushed forward. "Let's play a game then, shall we?" The room tightened, dimming against his excitement. It felt like the air had shifted into a dense mist, thick with the weight of emotions yet to surface. "But know this, Zarael, unveil the truth I hold. Your past is a puzzle, and only when you face it can you decide whether to confront it or run again." The crowd was still, their eyes reflecting stories untold and hesitant breaths taken amid the electric tension. I could almost hear the pulse of my own heart drumming against my chest, the truth of the past bringing shadows flickering outside the light. But beneath the fear of the unknown was a growing resolve. This was not about yielding to the shadows, it was about stepping into the light, even when it felt perilous, even when it terrified me. And just as I prepared to face whatever might unfold, those ominous words echoed inside my mind, intertwining with an urgent realization I held the power to define my own path. But just then, an unexpected twist shot through the layer of tension that had settled in the room. The cafe's door swung open once more, and a figure stepped in, drenched from the rain but undeniably familiar. It was Anya, her yellow raincoat bright against the gray night, her laughter cutting through the heaviness that blanketed the space. "Zara!" she called out, eyes sparkling with innocent joy despite the havoc around us. She tugged on my sleeve, her tiny fingers bringing warmth in a place filled with darkness. "You said you'd come back." In that moment, everything shifted. Suddenly, the years of turmoil, the weight of unresolved conflicts, and the enormity of my fears colliding in a fusion of clarity and love. Anya's presence sparked a renewal in my spirit. Her childlike faith in me reminded me that I had choices, freedom to illuminate even the darkest places. That I turned to face James, my chin held high. "You see, I won't just run. I am here fully, completely. I have chosen to walk away from what you represent. I found connection, kindness, and love, and they will serve as my strength." James stared, his composure slipping, confusion battling within the depths of his gaze. "You think you can just ignore what I know?" "Not ignore," I corrected firmly, but decide that your knowledge does not wield the power over my existence. I choose how my story unfolds. And as I drew strength from Theo and Anya, I felt an overwhelming sense of purpose wash over me, wrapping around my heart like a shield. This was no longer just about fighting the ghosts of my past. This was about standing firm in who I had become, a fighter, a survivor, empowered by connections, and fueled by a willingness to embrace every part of the truth. The old woman's words echoed in my mind, and with every breath, I felt the darkness retreating, acceptance flooding in where fear used to linger. Today, I would confront whatever darkness James wielded, armed with the knowledge that my past, while an integral part of my journey, did not dictate the potential of my light. Let's find out what's hidden in the shadows, shall we? I declared, unwavering. And as I stood there, encircled by the warmth of friendship, love, and unwavering kindness, I finally knew I was ready to face the dark, no longer tethered by fear but propelled by the hope entwined within us all. The entity of my truth stood ready before me, and with a fierce conviction ignited by the unbreakable bonds forged through pain and rebuilding, I stepped into my rightful narrative, prepared to unravel the fabric of past mistakes. One chapter at a time, I would take back my power, stitching the tapestry of my life with vibrant colors, not of shame but of resilience. As I faced James, the shadows receded, and the fabric of my being woven from courage and belief surged forward like a tide. In that final moment, I knew that whatever lay ahead would be a journey I was no longer afraid to traverse. Every step would echo with truth, each hue intertwining with the kindness bestowed upon me, an everlasting reminder of the beauty found in overcoming darkness. And standing there, heart open, surrounded by warmth and love, I took my first step towards freedom, the sweetest note echoing through the wind. Sometimes, returning home means daring to forge ahead into the unknown. It means choosing to dance amidst the rain, trusting in the magic of connection and the beauty of unyielding hope.